Hello and welcome to the Succession of Changing Kings, and this is a turn-based kingdom management game. If you'd like to check it out, there is a link in the description. And one thing I have to say about this, I am actually very intrigued about it because it is decision-based. Oh yeah. So basically, you make a decision and then you see the consequences of that decision and you try to basically survive for as long as possible. And there is a huge amount of replayability in this game. There are, as far as I'm aware, over 40 different ways that you can literally die in this. And as far as I know, there is only one act available at the moment. It is in early access on Steam, and the next act is coming out relatively soon, actually, sometime later this month, which is May 2025. And one thing I have to mention, which I'm not entirely sure if it's the case or not, but it does sound very, very much like it. The game features AI voice acting, which is one thing that I personally I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan because it sounds weird, okay? It sounds weird. I've turned off the voice volume at the moment, but I'm actually going to turn it back on just so that you can actually get an idea in the first introductory cutscene. For me personally, I would just play with it off because I think the game by itself, without any voice acting, is actually really, really fun. So I think the voice acting detracts from the overall experience. That's me personally, okay? But obviously, if you prefer voice acting, then you can obviously re-enable it if you so desire, but I personally just don't like it the way it sounds. Anyway, we're going to start a new game, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so you can obviously, randomize your name, but I'm going to just call myself Barney, because that's just how we do it. That's just how we do it. And there are 3 different difficulties. You can play on story mode, normal, or Death Wish. Hilariously enough, the game, when I first loaded it up, it literally defaulted to Death Wish difficulty, which I thought was very funny, but we'll play on normal.
In ancient chronicles covered with the dust of oblivion, 5 kings are mentioned, each of whom reigned for no more than 444 days. This was the exact amount of time needed for each contender to complete the path to coronation, a peculiar tradition rooted in the sacred texts. This period became known as the Succession of Changing Kings. A once prosperous kingdom had withered into a decaying fiefdom. Fields that had yielded bountiful harvests were now overgrown with weeds. Trade caravans had all but vanished, and the finest of its people had abandoned their homeland in search of a better future. Few dared to hope that you, the last of an ancient dynasty, would succeed in breaking this vicious cycle. The wise patriarch went to the throne of light to pray for you. Before leaving, the patriarch vowed to return in exactly 444 days to preside over your coronation. Until then, you will remain a Dauphin, a mere shadow of a future king. As you ascended the throne, the sky above the castle was gray and gloomy. Doubt swirled around you, denser than the clouds overhead. But somewhere in the depth of your mind, a thought flickered. Your fate has not been sealed yet. Time loomed over you like an unrelenting weight. But one chance remained. The only chance to prove that you were more than just another failure on the throne, to show that you were the one who could restore the light and glory of the kingdom. Break the succession of changing kings at any cost. Survive to be crowned king.
And so there you have it. There is a little bit of the voice acting, which I think is AI generated, because as you could maybe tell, a lot of the should we say, a lot of the tone and the way that the things are said, pronunciations and so on and so forth, a little bit off for me, and the way that the text flows. For me personally, I do think that the text is actually very well written. I do think it sounds very good. So that's the reason why I personally believe that the voice acting really takes away from how cool this game actually looks. Because if you take a look at this, we've literally got wheat, flowing in the breeze right here. We've got birds flying overhead. We have fire over there. It's a actually very pretty looking game as well. And you wouldn't think so, considering obviously it's a turn-based, game that you're playing from a bird's eye view, and there's no need to do all these really intricate little details, but they've done that because they're passionate about it, and that's the reason why it's such a weird thing for the voice acting. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about that anymore. We're going to continue onward, and we're going to see what we do here. So let's have a look at a twist of the wrist and a bit of trickery. All right. You travel back to the castle along a winding country road that snakes between rolling green hills and dense leafy forests. The main trade route, usually bustling with merchants and life, has been rendered impassable by recent rains, forcing your entourage to take a detour. The sun dips low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the path. Suddenly, up ahead, you spot a gathering of people. They've formed a circle, and laughter and applause echo from its center. As you approach, you see a magician clad in a long hooded cloak, deftly juggling before pulling vibrant flowers out of thin air as if by magic. "Troy, son of Gishbar, at your service," he announces with a graceful bow, meeting your gaze. His voice brims with energy and an almost otherworldly charisma that makes you instinctively want to trust this peculiar fellow. You decide to stop and watch the performance. Your companions gather around you, forming a semicircle so you can enjoy the spectacle. Noticing you among the audience, Troy begins his act. First, he pulls a white dove from his empty sleeve. The bird soars skyward, drawing gasps of wonder from the crowd. Then he conjures coins from the air, expertly flipping them from hand to hand before they vanish as suddenly as they appeared. His movements are swift and precise, every gesture honed by years of practice. Enchanted by the magician's craft, you don't immediately realize that your small travel pouch containing your money has disappeared. It's only after the performance ends, as the crowd begins to disperse and you prepare to continue your journey, that you notice the loss. "My coin pouch," you mutter, glancing around. Your guards immediately begin searching for the suspicious magician, but the nimble wizard has already vanished into the crowd, leaving behind only the memory of his mesmerizing show. And so, as you see here, we now have a bunch of different decisions to make. Obviously, we don't currently have the detective, so I will not be able to select the detective, which is actually very sad. That's okay, because what I'm going to do is we're going to alert the city guard to hunt down this scoundrel. You can't do that to the king. Thank you very much. Hundreds of soldiers spent an entire week hundreds? Okay, I wasn't actually wanting hundreds to go and do that, but okay. Spent an entire week fanning out the country roads and roadside taverns. No trace of the trickster was found, and in the eyes of the army, you now seem ridiculous. There you go. So we should have just let it go, I guess. Yeah, we should have just let it go. Anyway, we've got another decision to make here. For centuries, tradition dictated that taxes in the northeastern lands, stretching from the Satyr Mountains to the Shadow Valley, were collected by the army stationed in Okor, a fortress perched on the border between your kingdom and the Duchy of Thorn. The residents of these lands, simple peasants and artisans, had grown accustomed to this arrangement. The army provided protection and in return collected annual taxes set by the king himself. But times have changed. After a series of weak monarchs with diminishing authority, the army began to take greater liberties. What was once an annual duty transformed into a quarterly burden. The people could not replenish their stores quickly enough and struggled to feed their families. Smoldering resentment erupted into open rebellion. The commoners united under the leadership of a former blacksmith named Gorman, a man of both strong hands and an even stronger will. "We will no longer feed their bloated bellies," Gorman proclaimed at a gathering in an old barn that served as the rebels' temporary headquarters. "Let them work the fields themselves. If they want our bread, we will pay taxes only to the king, as it should be. No middlemen, no greedy collectors from Okor." Word of the rebellion spread swiftly across the northeastern lands and beyond. People defied the soldiers and even clashed with them directly. The army found itself in a precarious position, unwilling to use force against the people for fear of inciting a larger uprising. Gorman and his followers sent envoys to the royal court demanding justice. Their appeal was straightforward: restore the old system and allow the commoners to pay taxes directly to the crown, bypassing the avaricious collectors in Okor. Upon hearing of the revolt, you grasped the gravity of the situation. This was not just about taxes, it was about authority. If you acquiesce to the commoners' demands today, they will learn that force can achieve their goals, and this will not sit well with the army, nor with many others. Okay, so basically we have a bunch of different stats here, as you can quite clearly tell. We have 4 initiative, 4 health, 4 defense, and then we have question mark, commoners, army, aristocracy, and church. And we don't have the ability to see that just yet because we don't have an informer or anything like that. So what we're going to do is, let's see, let them pay directly. Why do I need middlemen? Or traditions are sacred, but the army needs to be reined in. Taxes may only be collected once a year. The army is within its rights. Give the rebels a good flogging as a preventative measure, or let us find a compromise. Why not hand over tax collection to the church? I'm going to say let them pay directly. Why do I need middlemen? The peasants are grateful for your fair decision, but the army predictably curses your name. Let us hope you're not planning any wars soon. Well, I wasn't. The throne room awaits. The butler catches you poring over documents belonging to your predecessors, the previous dauphins. Much of what you have read today could only be described as drivel, such as Gilbert the Glutton's 76 donut recipes, or Magnus the Heretic's annotated chess games. However, a significant portion was penned by Cigarus the Recluse, perhaps the most accomplished of the changing kings. He was only 4 days shy of coronation. You stretch lazily, allowing your still young bones to creak like those of an elder. Your Majesty, Adrian E. Holloway begins, his tone reverent but firm. May I offer some advice? Everyone is eagerly awaiting a sign of your favor. Countess Evenshel, Holy Father Lumiel, and General Bardarian have already arrived in the capital. It is widely believed that the first audience granted by a new ruler signals where their loyalties will lie. You recall your conversation with the butler yesterday and decide to probe further. And if my majesty were to show favor to the common folk, who should I meet with? For a moment, the all-knowing Adrian freezes, caught off guard. Then he recovers and answers. Sir, that is somewhat unconventional, as the common folk have no formal representative. However, I suppose you could forego meeting the 3 high-ranking figures and instead visit the nearest village. Such an act would send a very clear message. So now we have a decision to make. A lady should never be kept waiting. We'll summon the Countess. The army is the kingdom's true backbone. We could summon General Bardarian. We could meet with the Holy Father Lumiel. Or what is the name of the nearest village? Have the carriage prepared. We shall snub the dignitaries. Or I am in no mood to meet with anyone. Leave me to my papers. Yeah, okay, so we are going to be summoning the army's fellow because I want to get additional army because I don't actually know what my army rank is at the moment, but I'm pretty sure I am the lowest on that at the moment. In less than 15 minutes, the butler brings General Bardarian to you. You decided that General Bardarian deserved the first audience with you. The doors of the hall opened without a knock, and the general appeared in the doorway. Bardarian was completely bald, his head gleaming under the torchlight, with several scars crisscrossing his skin, each telling a story of countless battles. His face, rugged and sharp with deep wrinkles, spoke of years spent on the battlefield. His dark, penetrating eyes were sharp and observant. A slight hint of bulkiness only emphasized his powerful physique and commanding presence. Bardarian stopped in front of the throne and bowed his head in respect. Your Majesty, I thank you for this honor, he said, his deep, gravelly voice resonating through the hall. The king nodded, inviting the general to speak. Bardarian straightened, his gaze turning serious and determined. Your Majesty, I have come not only to express my gratitude, I have come to speak plainly. If you choose to support the army, you will have no allies more loyal than us. The army and I personally will stand by you until the end. We will die for you if necessary." The general paused, letting the echo of his words ring in the silence of the hall. Then his tone turned harsher as he continued. "But the history of our kingdom remembers those who chose otherwise. Take King Anzabald the Peaceable, for example. As you know, his reign was the shortest, just 99 days. He believed that maintaining fortresses and supporting the military was too costly for the treasury. First, he disbanded his personal guard, and then he began cutting troops and reducing funding for military facilities." Bardarian took a step forward, his eyes glinting fiercely. "By the end of the 3rd month, the troops marched into the square, or into the capital actually. Without much ceremony, the king was executed in the main square, beheaded. Anzabald thought peace could be bought, but he failed to grasp one simple truth. Without a strong army, there is no peace. Yes, the army never fully recovered, but we learned our lesson. We will not allow such a thing to happen again." The general bowed his head once more, paying respect to the king. "I say this not to frighten or threaten you, your majesty. The Holy Father and the Countess may never speak so directly, but they have plenty of ways to depose a dauphin, as they have done before. We believe in you, your majesty. As a token of our friendship, the army will undertake the restoration of one of the capital's critical structures." Okay, well, let's drink to that. It is of course reassuring to have an ally like Bardarian, yet you cannot shake the thought that your uncle Anzabald was coldly beheaded by the very general of his own army. And we now have a fencing instructor. A master fencer offers invaluable training, sharpening the reflexes of both guards and their ruler, and we're going to be losing three initiative. Actually, wait, sorry, not 3 initiative. We're losing 1 initiative every 3 turns. Oh, no, never mind. But we are actually gaining 1 initiative. Actually, 2 initiative. What is up with me and numbers today? Anyway, yes, we're gaining 2 initiative every turn. That's actually insanely good. All right. In the early days of your reign, news arrived of the death of Garpagon. Garpagon? What a name. A notorious miser aristocrat and possessor of untold wealth. His name was synonymous with greed and hoarding, and even in his final days, he remained true to his principles. Having no direct heirs, his many relatives eagerly awaited the chance to claim the vast fortune hidden within the depths of his desolate mansion. However, Garpagon. Yes, Garpagon. There we go. That's his name. I don't know why I have such a difficulty with this guy's name. Anyway, Garpagon's will proved a fitting epitaph to his life of stinginess. In his final decree, he ordered, "My wealth shall go to no one. Bury it with me." This command caused a wave of outrage and debate, and the matter was brought before you as the supreme arbiter, with the hope that you would bring justice to such an absurd situation. Okay, so, as you can see here, load up this miser's treasure and send it straight to the royal treasury, distribute his wealth equally among his noble relatives, donate it to the construction of a new monastery for Lumen. I've read reports about issues with fortifications and soldier housing at the distant outposts. Let the money be used for the kingdom's safety, or use the miser's fortune to fund celebrations in every city and village. Let the people rejoice. Well, it's very clear from a legal standpoint, well, technically a legal standpoint, that this should go straight to me. No, I'm obviously joking. It should go straight to his royal, well, not his royal, but his noble relatives. That is generally the way that it happens, right? It goes to the next of kin most of the time. So that's usually what I'm actually going to select, because it would be way too greedy for me to take this for myself. It would be very good to actually, spread it among the people and so on and so forth. But as is intended legally. This is the way to go. The new ruler is kind and just. Though your treasurer vehemently disagreed, the aristocracy warmly approved your decision, and so we are gaining some relation with the aristocracy, as you can see right there. You toss and turn restlessly in bed. The pillow is far too soft, and your neck quickly stiffens. My first royal decree should ban soft pillows, you think, rising from the bed. In the fireplace, a single log crackles faintly as it burns out. Sleep eludes you on your first night as sovereign. Will you be able to bear such a heavy burden? Will you even survive to see the end of next week? Questions upon questions. Suddenly, a brilliant flash lights up the room, and you hurriedly step out onto the balcony. "A star! A falling star!" the palace guards shout in excited voices below. I wonder how the people will interpret this. Oh dear. Many witnessed the falling star tonight and saw it as a good omen for the start of the new king's reign. However, there were also those who believed this reign would be as brilliant and fleeting as the star's descent. We did gain some initiative from that. And there you go. That's all for today. Come back tomorrow. The end of turn is now available. Alright, so that is exactly what we're going to do. End your turn when ready. Before retiring for the night, you receive the daily summary from your butler. We gained 6 initiative. We got, betting on the army. We also got a fencing instructor and all that wonderful stuff. Okay, there we have it. And now we can, we can have a look at the history of Valandor here. Vasilin the Grey, the kingdom's last rightful ruler, died without leaving a direct heir. His death marked the start of the succession of changing kings, when no regent lived long enough to be crowned. That is hilarious, actually. That is very funny. Okay, so we can now decide on which little mission that we want to do when we are on day 5. I think that I'm probably going to die before day 10. I have a very, very bad feeling about it, so let's actually see whether that even happens. Between the dense ancient pines of the Verador forest, rarely traversed by man, lay 2 roads. The southwestern route, tenuously controlled by the garrison of Castle Canehard, led to Delang. The southeastern route, passing through fields and hamlets, remained defenseless against the bandits who had long claimed the forest as their own. These scoundrels preyed solely on merchants and tax collectors. Their raids were infrequent enough that no serious efforts had been made to eliminate them, but the harm they caused was becoming increasingly apparent. Finding them would not be easy. Even with the entire army mobilized, it would take months to comb through the hundreds of hectares of impassable forest. Local guards suspected that the peasants were protecting the bandits in exchange for small handouts. Perhaps a little pressure might loosen their tongues. Right. Okay, so as you can see, if I had built guardhouses by now, then we would have been able to use this option right here, but I don't have that right currently, so yes, we'll have to select something else. Send the elder of the nearest village to the dungeon of my castle for a meeting with the executioner. By the end of the week, we will know exactly where the bandits are camped. Or, order the army to scour the forest, and if they fail to find the bandits, burn the underbrush. We will smoke them out. Or, why should I worry about merchants? Let them hire reliable guards. My tax collectors can take other routes. Alright, well, it's pretty clear that we should probably... I don't know. Generally, I would not want to actually smoke them out because I have a feeling that could go pretty badly, but I feel like that might be the only option for us right now, so I'm going to select this. Oh dear. The army followed your orders precisely, but soldiers unaccustomed to life in the wild fell victim to ticks, sand fleas, and other pests during the week-long campaign. By the time commanders ordered the forest to be set ablaze, the troops were on the verge of mutiny. No trace of the bandits was ever found, but you succeeded in alienating both the common folk and the army. Oh, how perfect. That was wonderful. I did a very good job there. Parhelia, a rare phenomenon, graced the skies of the kingdom for the first time in a century. 2 dazzling solar discs flanked the true sun like loyal sentinels. The Luminists, ever faithful to their doctrine, interpreted this as a sign of divine purification. 3 suns burn away all sins like 3 fiery eyes of the celestial judge, they said. News of this event spread like wildfire across the kingdom, and people abandoned their daily lives to embark on pilgrimages. Holy texts prescribed a 3-day and 3-night journey, permitting stops only for rest and cleansing. However, the church was clearly unprepared for such an overwhelming movement. Now you are deep in thought. Should you organize aid for the thousands of pilgrims suddenly taking to the roads, or let them fend for themselves? Well, it's pretty clear, isn't it? It's pretty clear. We should probably just make the radiant. May the radiant lumen help them. I mean, it's very clear that that's not going to happen. I guess provide assistance as needed. Yeah, that seemed to be good. In their religious fervor, many left their homes without even packing a crust of bread. It is frightening to imagine what could have happened without your decision. Of course, luxuries were out of the question, but every pilgrim received a bowl of stew and a mug of clean water. It cost the treasury, but the benefits were clear. And indeed, I actually don't really care about that. 3 initiative, that is actually fine, because we're gaining a good amount of initiative every single day, basically. And there you go. All right. The throne room awaits. You stumble upon a massive cobweb-covered portrait of your great-great-great-great-grandfather, Tartagon the Builder, in one of the castle's far corners. Family legends claim that he was the one who completely rebuilt the capital and the royal fortress. Overcome with a sudden wave of gratitude toward your noble ancestor, you order the portrait cleaned and hung in a more prominent place. However, the servants discover a hidden entrance to a dark underground passage behind it. Will you send someone to explore it, descend yourself, or leave the secrets untouched? Who would leave? Come on now. Who's going to leave the secrets untouched? I mean, really, no one is going to do that. I'm going to do it myself. After a few hours of your absence, the castle guard finally raised the alarm. Impressive, truly. The king vanishes for a couple of hours and they hardly bat an eye. However, their assistance was only needed to haul out a rotten chest filled with gold coins. It might be worth giving this castle a closer look. It is not as unimpressive as it first seems. Alright, well, what do we have here? Wow, +4, look at that. Fortune clearly favors me. +4 initiative. You sit in the throne hall, watching the play of light reflecting through the stained glass windows, when a group of peasants and a noble aristocrat appear before you. Their faces are tense and anxious, and you realize that you are about to make another difficult decision. When were they ever easy? At the head of the peasants stands the village elder, his face lined with deep wrinkles. Next to him is a young shepherd, judging by his attire. Opposite them stands the aristocrat, Edward Melwood, haughty and confident in his claim. 5 years ago, the common folk rented a patch of land in the foothills from Melwood to graze their sheep. The land seemed barren, but for the peasants it was their only hope of feeding their families. Fate, however, had other plans. While grazing their sheep, the shepherds discovered a rich vein of silver. They kept their discovery hidden from the landowner. When Edward Melwood learned of the silver, he demanded the return of all the extracted ore and immediately sought to terminate the lease, claiming that the resources of the land were his by right. The desperate peasants have come to you, their king, to seek justice. Okay, so Mr. Melwood, I'm not... okay, look at this. I am actually not saying the E. Melwood, little thing at the beginning of the name there, because I find it difficult to say that. But hopefully you understand. Okay, so otherwise, we are... Well, technically it is his land, and technically it is his ownership, even though, for me personally, I don't really appreciate that kind of thing. But let's just see what kind of options we have available here. All mineral resources in the kingdom belong to the crown. The mine is hereby seized as royal property. Technically, that is that is true. Back in these days, technically that is true to a certain degree. But he does own it, and he is an aristocrat. So yeah, it's a little bit of a troublesome situation. Then we have another one. Let the common folk keep the silver they have already mined, but the nobleman has the right to terminate the lease. Or immediately return all extracted silver to Edward Melwood and vacate the land at once. Or the lease is for 5 years. The common folk may continue to use the land, and the silver they mined is lawfully theirs. Actually, they discovered it, right? The land seemed barren. Yeah, While grazing their sheep, the shepherds discovered a rich vein of silver. They kept the discovery hidden from the landowner. I mean, technically, yes, it is his land, but he did sign over a lease to the land. I am, you know what? I'm going to say the lease is for 5 years. The common folk may continue to use the land, and the silver they mined is lawfully theirs. There we go. The deep wrinkles on the elder's face smoothed out for a moment, making him look 20 years younger. The furious aristocrat stormed out of the throne hall without a word. By tomorrow, the entire nobility will know how you handle aristocratic property, and they will not be pleased. Well, actually, I don't even really care about that, because we did gain some aristocracy earlier on, and we now have +2 with the peasantry, which I think is pretty decent. Okay, we have something else here now. A star fell somewhere in Verador, the ancient uninhabited forest in the southern part of the kingdom. Searching for it could take weeks. Yet, you have a strong feeling that finding it is essential, and that it might play a significant role in your future. Will you launch an expedition? I will personally lead a squad of guards. Let's do that. You fussed quite a bit during the trip, making a couple of rash decisions along the way. The guards, of course, didn't dare contradict the king, but they would have finished faster without your involvement. In the end, all that remained of the fallen star was a small piece of iron. The fragment was unearthed and handed to a royal blacksmith for further study. Okay, so we ended up losing 1 initiative, which I probably could have avoided if I had just, told them to do that. But the funny thing is, how do I know that I'm going to make some stupid decision? I don't know, but there you go. All right, we're done with this, and we can now end the turn once again. Before retiring for the night, you receive the daily summary. We got +7 initiative. Consider hiring a spy at the King's Hall to understand how the kingdom's factions perceive you. Yes, we could actually do that. So, shall we? We could hire a spy. Let's actually see whether I can even do that. Let me see here. So we can actually get the forge. Where's the the informer. Not enough inn. We don't have an inn. Okay, so where's the inn? There is the inn. Okay, so we will build the inn. That gives me +1 initiative every single turn. I probably should have done this beforehand, shouldn't I? But yeah, we now have 9 initiative. So I am going to probably wait until that's built, and then we will get the informer, and then that's obviously going to help us a great deal. As you can see on the map here, it's actually being built right there. I love this animation, by the way. Very slick animation, to be honest. Okay, so we can now choose something else. So what would General Bardarian do? Oh, this sounds funny. Okay. For the past week, General Bardarian had been absent from the ranks. Reports indicated that he was unwell. During a campaign, your seasoned commander drank water from a questionable well and was now suffering severe abdominal pain. Rumor has it that the Purger, the infamous poisoner of wells, was responsible. Bardarian, a soldier of the old guard, rarely allowed himself even brief rest, but now he was bedridden. All army matters had fallen to other officers, and the responsibility for judging errant soldiers had fallen to you. Initially, you hoped this duty would be a mere formality. After all, discipline in Bardarian's command was strict, and violations were rare. But, as fate would have it, just a few hours after you assumed this responsibility, the first case was brought before you. Standing before you in shackles was a young but sturdy guardian. He had been caught red-handed asleep at his post, and not just asleep, but drunk. This was a serious offense. and every soldier knew that even the thought of drinking while on guard was forbidden, let alone indulging in such reckless behavior. The soldier remained silent, his gaze fixed on the ground, as the officer presented the case. Your thoughts whirled. What would General Bardarian do? Okay, so, what would he do, actually? What would he do? For me personally, I am actually not sure. We've only spoken to him once. He seems like a very realistic fellow. I'm not sure if he seems like someone that is callous. I'm not sure if he's super brutal or anything like that. Maybe he does seem like that, but we're probably just going to send him to a distant outpost. I don't know. I mean, he's young, though. That's the whole point. Let us forgive his first mistake. If it is literally his first mistake, we might just want to forgive him. Let's do that. A week later, the disgraced Guardian was found in one of the capital's alleys with a smashed skull and broken ribs. There was nothing anyone could do to save him, and you strongly suspected Bardarian's hand in this, as he cursed your decision loudly for an entire week. Oh, never mind. Okay, apparently he is kind of brutal then. I didn't realize. My bad. Alright, let's do business. With the last trading ship came news that smugglers had settled at the northern end of the Bay of Storms. Such rumors could not go ignored, and you, resolved to uncover the truth, set out with a large group of guards. The journey was long, but your determination and desire to address the situation carried you forward. After navigating through an endless series of coves, you arrived at the site by nightfall. Before you stretched a hidden world, shielded from the eyes of law-abiding citizens. A secluded cove surrounded by high cliffs served as the perfect refuge for the smugglers. Along the shoreline, torches blazed brightly and dozens of people bustled about, their activities muffled by the sound of the waves. Your group went unnoticed at first, but once a sharp-eyed lookout raised the alarm, panic ensued. Some scrambled into boats, trying to get as far from the shore as possible, while others dived into the water. Meanwhile, two men raised their hands high in a gesture of peace and approached you. They introduced themselves as Ludon and Luke Fonchel, the leaders of this illicit enterprise. Their operation involved smuggling goods from Kokeo and Dalaman to bypass the kingdom's customs. According to the brothers, desperation and harsh trade policies implemented by the previous Dauphin, Cigaris the Recluse, had driven them to this life. Cigaris had imposed high tariffs to replenish the treasury. Fonchel claimed that almost every resident of the northern Bay of Storms was involved in smuggling in some way, storing, transporting, or selling goods. Even the military aristocracy and peculiar red-robed cultists allegedly ordered exotic fruits through them. For the first time in years, locals were no longer living in abject poverty. The brothers offered any assistance you desired, as long as their lives and trade were spared. You know what? I would love to do this. I would love to do this option right here, but I don't have a granary because I was not aware that I should build stuff. That is my bad. But yes, this would have been very cool, and I probably would have selected this option. The kingdom will buy your goods at a fair price, and your business must be legalized. I will find a way. That is actually what I would have selected if I had the granary built, but I unfortunately do not. So I am taking a cut. Deliver the agreed sum to Valandor monthly and continue your trade. The smugglers began sending you regular financial gratitude, but the aristocrats were less than forgiving. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they would be. And this is the point. I would have avoided this 100% if I had the granary built, which I did not, of course. So we are going to be gaining 1 initiative every turn. However, the aristocracy is going to be losing 1 relation every 2 turns, which is very, very bad. Oh, is something going on here right now? Are they burning my place? I don't know. The only known weakness of Holy Father Lumiel was chess. His eternally stern face and ascetic lifestyle somehow coexisted with the spirit of an avid player who had honed his skills to a remarkable level. In every match, he displayed an unparalleled ability to foresee his opponent's moves and plan several steps ahead. Perhaps there was not a single noble in the kingdom who did not know how to play chess. A good game was considered a hallmark of not only great intellect, but also a sign of refined aristocracy. This evening, in your study in Valandor, the atmosphere was especially tense. A popular opening, the Dalaman Gambit, was unfolding on the board. Holy Father Lumiel favored an aggressive attack with 2 knights, always aiming to seize the initiative early on. His fianchettoed bishop ominously eyed your king, shielded by a solid wall of pawns. 2 hours into the game, silence reigned in the room. Occasionally, you and your opponent stepped to the window to gaze at the slumbering city and release some of the tension from the complex match. "By the shadows of Tenebris," the Holy Father murmured almost inaudibly. "I did not see that." You studied the board intently, recalling tales of Magnus the Heretic, a king whose chess mastery was so exceptional that he could easily defeat nearly any opponent. Unfortunately, that was the sole highlight of his reign, aside from his infamous clashes with the Church. Your opponent began shifting his minor pieces erratically, constructing a mysterious combination. What was he plotting? Rumor had it that the Church had not deposed Magnus solely for his heresy. Holy Father Lumiel allegedly had personal grudges against the ill-fated king over their chessboard encounters. Of course, it sounded absurd, yet people believed it. Arguably, the end of your distant cousin Magnus the Heretic's reign was the most enigmatic among the many changes of rulers. His body was never found, and some whispered that Magnus still lived, hiding abroad or even retreating into seclusion in the Satyr Mountains. Whatever Lumiel was aiming for, his white piece's attack had stalled. You executed several skillful moves, pushing all his pieces to the board's edge. All that remained was to finish your assault and suffocate the opponent. After deliberation, you found an intriguing combination that would deliver a checkmate in 5 or 6 moves. Your opponent observed your every move intently, his gaze devoid of emotion. No, there could be no mistake. The choice before you was clear. Launch an immediate attack or continue building up your positional advantage. Okay, so we can attack now, or we can do no need to rush, my position is solid, or we can claim exhaustion and ask to postpone the match. That is actually very funny. I think we are going to claim exhaustion and ask to postpone the match, because this fellow is either because they did say back here that Magnus might still be alive, and maybe Lumiel decided to keep him alive because he is an extremely good chess player and he had no mercy for him. That could potentially be the case. And that's the reason why we might have a bit of a problem here, because I don't know whether I want to attack him. He might be a sore loser, you see. He might be a sore loser. He might decide that he wants to murder us, or at the very least, depose us. So I'm going to claim exhaustion. Ooh. Yeah, that was also something that I was a bit worried about. So this is the thing. As I said to you, maybe he was impressed with Magnus's ability to win at chess, or to be really, really good at chess. And maybe that's the reason why his body was never found, because he's actually still alive, you know? The Holy Father's impassive gaze flickered with something else. Contempt, pity, whatever it was. It did not bode well for you. Okay, your butler woke you in the middle of the night, just a couple of hours before dawn, shouting, "Fire! Fire!" Usually calm and stoic, Adrian Holloway's face was now overcome with panic. In the rush, you even forgot to put on one sock, looking so disheveled and comical that your servants might not have recognized you as their ruler. Thankfully, the fire was not in the castle, but in one of the capital's prestigious districts, Corridoria. Fortunately, only 4 houses were destroyed, and the combined efforts of the townsfolk and a timely downpour brought the blaze under control relatively quickly. By morning, only the smell of smoke lingering throughout the city served as a reminder of the event. during breakfast. Adrian apologized for his overly emotional reaction and confessed that his once wealthy family had lost everything in a fire when he was just a young boy. Gathering his courage, he suggested that you consider establishing a firefighting service in the capital. Fires in Valandor and its surroundings were not uncommon, and could, at times, cause significant damage. Yes, help those affected. That's what we're going to do, of course. The very next day after the fire, dozens of workers hastily recruited from the port arrived at the site. The local nobility was pleasantly surprised. The workers quickly cleared the rubble while an enhanced guard detail watched over the salvaged belongings. Although the nobles will have to rebuild their homes themselves, no one expected such a generous gesture from the new king. The aristocrats were genuinely impressed. We gained +1 there. You enter the workshop just as the blacksmith finishes examining the gleaming fragment of the fallen star. After the chilly streets of Valandor, the room feels unbearably stuffy, and you're tempted to shed your cloak despite the breach of etiquette. The young, muscular blacksmith greets you with a friendly smile and informs you that he has carefully studied the fragment. Nothing extraordinary. If you had not mentioned it fell from the sky, I would not have noticed anything unusual. The only thing I could say is that working with this metal makes my head spin, similar to working with lead. You bid him farewell, informing him the fragment would be collected the following day. However, the next day, you are told the blacksmith was found dead. There were no signs of foul play. It seemed as though he simply lay down, fell asleep, and never woke up. None of the blacksmith's belongings appear to be missing. It seems you will need to find a new blacksmith. Okay, so we are going to... Lock the fragment of cosmic metal away somewhere far from people? It could be dangerous? I'm going to say that. The strange cosmic metal, which may have caused the blacksmith's death, has been moved to one of Valandor's cellars. Who knows? Perhaps it will be of use one day. That's why I decided to keep it, because let's face it, if we dispose of it, sometime that could cause some kind of problem. It really could cause some kind of issue. Anyway, there we have it. Now we can go to the next turn. These are what we gained. We got the inn, so the inn is now up and running, and we also have lost opportunities, which obviously is reducing our aristocratic reputation. So that's obviously a bit of an issue there. And as you can see, the prefix I is reserved for nobility. So whenever someone has an I on their name, they are a noble. Okay, there we are. Otherwise, that's it. I'm gonna end this episode off here. If you'd like to check out the Succession of Kings, which as you can see is very much what it says it does. It is indeed a decision-based kingdom management simulator, and I gotta say, I really, really love everything about the art style here. I think the art style is really, really cool. The way that these little guys and little objects and things like that move on the world map, I think that is extremely charming. And well, if you like making decisions, it's great. It's very, very fun. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.